Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, taking a deeper dive into this Florida State Seminole team and talking about what really does make this Florida team special and what's going really well on the field right now and what do they continue to need to work on in order to win an ACC championship, in order to win a national championship. And I'll say this, you used to have a lot of people writing Florida State off as just not being talented enough to win a national championship. And I'll agree, if you wanted to argue that the Georgia Bulldogs are more talented than Florida State, sure, I would accept that argument. But from a culture standpoint, from a standpoint that when the moment's the brightest and this Florida State team consistently is playing their best football, this team still feels special. And this is a team that can win a national championship. And we've seen Florida State play their best football, second half against LSU, second half against Duke, at times in that Clemson game. This is a team that can hang with anyone in the country. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys, and especially the Florida State fans. This has been a program I've loved talking about, and it's largely because y'all show just a ton of support. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, again, especially talking Florida State football, you guys always give me a ton of insight in the comment section. So let me know what you want to see from this Florida State team, what you think's been working, what's not been working. We'll chop it up there. Without further ado, let's get into this. And I want to start with something that's not even on the football field, and it's just a feeling about this team, and it's the culture. And it took Mike Norvell a couple of years to get to this point, right? That being said, you look at the leaders of this football team. Jared Verse, going to be a top 20 pick in the NFL draft, relentlessly trying to stop the run, relentlessly getting after the passer. Keon Coleman, another first-round NFL draft pick on this roster, blocking his tail off down the field. You combine that with the leadership Jordon Travis has shown the last couple of years from a culture standpoint. I mean, this Florida State team, and going back to that idea, they always play their best football when it matters most, and their best football is just about as good as anyone in the country. That's what excites you the most about this Florida State team. Now, getting into some of the stuff on the field that I think Florida State has done a really good job of, especially in times it matters most, it starts with the Jordon Travis run game. Now, Jordon Travis has made leaps and bounds, and we talked about this in the offseason. He's made leaps and bounds in terms of being a pocket passer. Like every single year, you go look back at the numbers, completion percentage going up, yards per attempt is going up. You watch the film, the ball is coming out on time more accurately. He's processing the field better. Jordon Travis has become an extremely good pocket passer. That being said, I don't want Florida State to forget what one of his biggest assets is, and that's his athleticism. When he is in the open field, there are not many guys on this Florida State team that are better in space than Jordon Travis. And it's an interesting conversation because you want to keep Jordon Travis healthy. So when you're going and playing Wake Forest this weekend, like, do you want to run Jordon Travis on some designed runs? Probably not, because what's most important is you're probably going to win that game, whether Jordon Travis is running the football or whether he's not. You want to keep him healthy, but when you're playing some of those teams, especially second half against Duke, when that game was getting a little hairy, they started letting Jordon Travis cook a little bit. That's when this offense is at its best. So am I saying you need to run Jordon Travis 10, 12 times against Wake Forest? Absolutely not. But when you're playing those top teams, Jordon Travis and his ability to run with the football is a massive asset to this offense, and I'd like to see them do it when you get into the college football playoffs or playing for an ACC championship. That's when I would like to see Jordon Travis use his legs a little bit more. And when he does, like, you see a little bit more room for the running backs to operate as well. When that backside defender has to respect Jordon Travis keeping it on that RPO and running with the football, like, it's gonna give Trey Benson, Lawrence Tuafili more room to operate. And those are two of the best running backs in the country. When you give them a little bit more space, they're going to turn a 3-yard carry into an 8-yard carry. They're going to turn a 10-yard carry into a 25-yard carry. So I think Jordon Travis running the football, especially in the games that matter the most and are in the biggest moments, I think is a massive asset. And I'd like to see them continue to do that like they did in the second half. The next thing I want to talk about, attack in the middle of the field. And Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson represent maybe the best wide receiver duo that we see in the entire country. Now, there are some other good ones too, but that's certainly one of them. What did Duke have to do? When you have Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson on the outside, those safeties need to respect Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman working vertically down the field. And so what does that do to a defense, or where does that kind of create some soft spots? Those short intermediate routes. And you saw Jaheim Bell, Kyle Morlock wide open in the middle of the field certain times. That's not a coincidence. That is because Duke and other defenses that have to play Florida State need to respect Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. If you want to leave those guys on islands, then go let Keon Coleman cook that defense. But a lot of defenses are going to try to take Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson away. That's when you brought in Jaheim Bell for this reason, right? He's phenomenal after the catch. He's really good in space with the football. Jaheim Bell is going to be open plenty of times in those short intermediate routes in the middle of the field. I would like to see them continue to do that. I thought they did a really good job of that against Duke. You look at some of the numbers, Jordon Travis, by far his most efficient pass is between the numbers 10 to 19 yards down the field. He's 57 to 78, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. Jordon Travis works the middle of the field better than any quarterback in the country, and it's going to be open because you got 2 alphas on the outside. That's not necessarily saying don't give Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson their looks. Like, they need to get their targets too, and there will be times when an opposing defense tries to take away that middle of the field. That's when you're taking your shots to Keon Coleman. But if they want to consistently hug those safeties to the sidelines over Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, go use a guy like Jaheim Bell. Go use a guy like Kyle Morlock to attack this team in the middle of the field. I think they have a lot of success doing that. Now, the thing I think Florida State continues to need to work on is that offensive line. I think that it's probably not a top 10 group in the country. It's probably for sure not a top 10 group in the country. I don't think it's a bad group. And I think they've taken some steps, but I think this offensive line continues to improve, but also get healthy. You can tell some of these guys are dinged up. And if they can get through the ACC championship and win that one, which I certainly think they can do, I think they're the heavy favorites right now to do so, and get this group healthy for the college football playoffs, I think you're going to see a step in the offensive line at play. But there are some times like Duke was able to handle them up front at times, especially when they were trying to run the football. Jeremiah Byers, I think, is really good in the run game. I think he struggles in pass protection. They're going to continue to try to rework, and you're seeing, I mean, the rotation's a lot on that offensive line. I think Robert Scott getting back healthy is going to be huge. But I do think if there's one thing that Florida State fans are a little bit concerned about in terms of this team winning a national championship, that offensive line continues to need to improve, get healthy, get better. And if they do that, then that just about rounds out this team from an offensive standpoint. You got elite wide receivers, really good quarterback play, really good running back play. I think it's good. The offense is designed extremely well. That offensive line just needs to continue to get better. Now, switching over to the defensive side of the ball, some of the bright spots, this secondary, phenomenal job against Duke. I mean, I really do think Riley Leonard is one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC. He goes 7 of 16 for 69 yards and a pick. And what they did really well is just not give up the big play. They didn't have a single completion that went over 20 yards. Duke has done a really good job about that. Like, they want to run the football, but when they do throw, they want to hit those explosive plays. Florida State did not allow any explosive plays to happen against Duke. You look at Fentrell Cypress. Now, we're going to talk about Fentrell Cypress stopping the run, which he needs to work on. In the secondary, I mean, he's been absolutely nailed. He was targeted 5 times, only gave up 2 catches for 13 yards. I mean, he is truly kind of emerging as that lockdown cornerback in that Florida State secondary. I think you're having a bunch of other guys step up. You watch the film against Duke. Like, there was not many easy throws. When Riley Leonard was completing balls down the field, those were just really good throws and really good catches. Florida State in the secondary, I thought, did a phenomenal job. The second thing I was really pleased with was, I mean, you're having a ton of guys step up in the pass rush. You knew Jared Verse would be that dude. And he's another thing on the defense. There was a couple holding penalties that were not called, which, and I don't normally complain about the refs. You guys kind of know that. That being said, there were some holds that led to big gains that weren't called. A little bit of a head scratcher. But in the pass rush, like, Jared Verse is going to be that guy, but he's going to get chipped. He's going to get double teamed. He's going to get a lot of attention. If you have some of those other guys, when you have a guy like Jared Verse who's requiring another guy to block him, you have to have your other guy step up. Patrick Payton, 46% pass rush win rate against a very good Duke offensive line. That's phenomenal. He had 15 true pass rush sets. He created 6 quarterback hurries. Patrick Payton, if he can continue to come into that, like, I think, elite pass rusher role opposite Jared Verse, that's a massive storyline. Braden Fisk, another guy that I think a slow start. I think he was dealing with some injuries. He's been emerging as a guy from the interior that can really do a good job. Fabian Lovett, that's probably the best game you've seen from him all year. Josh Farmer's been putting together a good year. This pass rush for Florida State, I think, is hitting its stride. And that is a really, really important component when you're thinking about this Florida State team doing something special in December, in January. Jared Verse is going to be that guy. Patrick Payton, Braden Fisk, Fabian Lovett, Joshua Farmer. You're seeing some other guys emerge as real dudes, which I think is going to massively help this Florida State team on defense. Now, the one thing that I think Florida State needs, I was kind of doing two positives. One thing I think Florida State needs to work on is the run game, and I do think it starts with Fentrell Cypress. There were 2 times in that game where he just lost contain on the edge, leading to big gains. Fentrell Cypress been elite in pass coverage, needs to be better coming up and being physical in the run. He's athletic enough. He has the IQ to do this. He just needs to be better in that, right? I mean, you saw that one where Jared Verse got held, but Fentrell Cypress is there. You cannot let that running back get to that outside shoulder and burn you like he did. It's about angles. It's about tracking that outside. It's the fundamentals. And Fentrell Cypress is not a guy that can't do it physically. He's one of the best athletes on this football team. That being said, it needs to get better because if teams can kind of attack that, which they do kind of did. I mean, their 2 best carries came off Fentrell Cypress taking bad angles. That's going to be a problem. Now, outside of that, I thought the run game, the stop in the run was pretty good. Again, you had some holding penalties. Really, the rushing production from Duke came off of 2 plays that I think were kind of should have been holds. So I'm not like out on this run game, but I did notice Fentrell Cypress getting cooked a little bit in the run game. Overall, this Florida State team, you take a look at the roster. I think it's one of the most complete teams that you see across the country. And there are a lot of teams that can't really say that. Like you look at Georgia right now, they are struggling at certain positions, right? Running backs really banged up. They're banged up on the offensive line. Pass catchers outside of Brock Bowers, you're not sure if there's there. There are not a ton of complete teams that you see across the country. I think Florida State is probably one of them. And if you get Jordon Travis playing his best football, you get Keon Coleman, Jared Verse playing their best football down the stretch, this is one of the most dangerous teams in the country. Fires me up. Wanted to hop on, talk a little bit about what I saw from Florida State, not only in that Duke game, but the last couple of games. It's a dangerous team. I think their best football is still ahead of them once they continue to get healthy. Really excited about this program. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.